Hey, I have to apologize on chapter 7 and 8. I couldn't quite finish chapter 7 before I accidentally hit the stop button. I don't know how to restart it, so I'm going to put up another little video closing out chapter 7, getting into community property in a second, which is not Massachusetts, but some states do have it. You should know about the distinction between the two. And I'm looking at some of the ways in which we look at value. Tangible pensions. Pensions. Now, that's the other thing, too. Some people say, well, that's my pension. That is entirely mine. Doesn't matter. Everything in Massachusetts is part of the marital estate. But it goes to the analysis of what is equitable based upon the person having been primarily the one that contributed to it. Maybe the other spouse didn't do anything in any way, shape, or form to really contribute to its growth or make it really more accessible to them because of the shared commitment to one another during the course of the marriage. Even college diplomas and things like that. Maybe you were during the course of the marriage, people got professional licensure and the other spouse supported them and took on a greater role at the house as a result of the other person being outgoing and earning other diplomas, and that should have a future value. All of those things get considered by the courts. Very complex, but yet fundamentally fair situation. Again, the longer the marriage, the more likely we're going to get close to equal. Don't ever say it's equal division, but say closer to equal. The shorter the marriage, the more likely the couple is going to leave with what they came with. The best is always to come to an agreement because the judge is a stranger to the situation, and judges only have a limited amount of time where they hear evidence unless you're going to spend fortune on an attorney, and you will, that's going to go do a lot of legwork and prepare a lot of legal arguments why you should get a bigger piece of the pie in the end. We know with the household, you should know from the reading in the book that with the primary residence, the party that is going to be granted if there is a situation where there's a primary caretaker of minor children, the court's going to favor that party to get possessory interest in that residence. But that doesn't mean the other party might not get some financial reward. I mean, it would make, okay, so mom's getting primary custody of the kids. Mom and dad both contribute equally to the economic viability of the assets and the things they've garnered during the course of the marriage. Both came in with very little at the beginning of the marriage. And now mom's going to take primary custody of the kids. She's going to get child support, but dad's going to take the 3-bedroom home in the nice neighborhood near the school. It doesn't seem fundamentally equitable. Mom's probably, if mom wants it, is probably going to be able to convince, I think, a reasonable judge that she should take possessory interest in the marital home because she has the minor kids living with her, and husband should be paid some kind of an equitable buyout based upon the circumstances. And it's not that clear what that actually means. The philosophy of a judge comes into big play. And I don't do this stuff anymore, and I promise myself I will never do another divorce because it is difficult to predict, and it is fact intensive from so many different variables that you have to consider. And you also have to consider which judge you're drawing. And to this day, I'll be hanging around, I'll see an attorney, and I'll break from the upper level of court, and I can see an attorney. I'll just stop down, and I'll overhear attorneys talking because it's the probate and family section of the court, and which judge you draw it, because they're curious, because some judges have slightly different philosophical outlooks arguably than other judges, and because it's equitable, there's a certain degree of lack of formula that goes into it. Now, community property states. Community property states are a little easier. It sounds easy at first blush. It's basically from the date of the marriage to the end of the marriage, and usually it's the filing of the divorce that marks the end of the marriage. It's 50-50 for anything that was gained, garnered, other than gifts or inheritances during that period of time. So the married couple is married for 10 years. Everything they've earned during that 10 years and bought and garnered and won in lottery, whatever, that's all part of the marital estate, and you divide it 50-50. Somebody say, wow, community property estates make a lot of sense. It's so much easier. Stuff you had before the marriage, you get to keep. Stuff that you received as a gift or inheritance, you get to keep. And the only thing that we're going to split 50-50, which is a very easy analysis, are the things that came in during the course of the marriage. Well, it is if everything kind of played out that way, but the problem is guess what happened during the course of the 10-year marriage? My wife came in with the house. That's hers. She's going to keep it at the end of the marriage. I agree. But during the course of the marriage, I paid to have a new roof put on. I also took my physical labor and I refinished all the floors in the home over a very long and lengthy summer of working lots of labor. Now that asset has become commingled in a way, and it's not truly an asset that completely came in before the marriage. So community property is a little bit more difficult than it first rings. But there is a little bit more of a formula there, and I do like that in some ways. Just as thinking about it, how much I think a little bit easier it is to divide the marital assets. Not an easy mix by any way in our traditional common law state, how we're going to figure out divvying it up. And that's where I think good, experienced attorneys that are ethical can make a big difference in trying to make sure parties resolve things. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a growing trend to not necessarily hire divorce attorneys right away, but go to a mediator, because oftentimes, well, maybe I'm just sort of off the record, I think most people are fighting over kids and money. And the kids things, I don't know that works too well with mediation, but money helps to get a third party to kind of look at it. And a mediator is objective, and you sit and you make your claim, and you say why you think you deserve what, and then the other side says it privately so you don't are at each other's throats. And then sometimes the mediator comes back to you, and they're not trying to take sides. They're trying to be as objective and fair as possible. They try to hash out an agreement by telling you, you're really thinking in an inappropriate way, or I think you are, and I think the other spouse is a little unreasonable. Let me try to work with him or her and try to come up with a more equitable situation. And what I like about settlement, which 98% I think of all divorce, maybe not 90, probably 95% or 90, it's very high. Why there is ultimately agreement is because some judges will even say it, at a pretrial hearing, is you're not going to like my decision. Neither one of you. You're both going to be very, very disappointed. So why don't you try to hedge your disappointment by being reasonable people, knowing what you both did in terms of the course of the marriage, without being, we're done with the bitterness and hatred of each other. Let's try to figure out what's really appropriate, and also especially for the future interests and needs of the children, if there are any children involved. We don't want to continue having bitterness between the parents. And I have to admit, we're usually going right up to any divorce I've ever had involved with. It's very difficult to do, but a good divorce, in terms of being equitable in the end, will help the parties become civil again on some level. Not with everybody, I know, but with some. So I hate to have done this and added 7 minutes to the other video by putting a hole in the video, but I don't know how to do editing. And I feel your embarrassment for me, because I'm sure it's a very simple process, and I just can't figure it out. And I wanted to get this chapter finished. And there's all kinds of issues with people trying to hide assets, or saying, well, they cash. There's people in really large estates. My cousin was did family divorces as a judge down in I think it's Litchfield County down in Connecticut, and a lot of people work and live in New York. Don't live there; they live in Litchfield County in Connecticut. But it's very, very wealthy community. It's basically a suburb of New York City's financial districts and stuff. And she was telling me that it goes we're dealing with divorces with hundreds. This is 15 years ago. She hasn't been a judge for quite some time. She's a lot older than that. She was telling me how I'm making decisions over people with hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and I'm trying to, and she said, you think when you have that much money and that kind of assets, it'd be pretty easy to figure out what would be equitable to divide between these parties. But people are hiding stuff, and they're putting it in their friends and other family people's names, so it doesn't look like they own them. And when they're getting ready, or people sometimes anticipate that the relationship's kind of ending, and they start basically, keep hiding cash from each other and hiding assets. That's really, really inappropriate. But there's a whole area of accounting law or accounting work that's called forensic accounting, is to kind of go back on the paper trail to figure out where stuff went. And that's part of the reason why attorneys need paralegals so much, because a lot of it's not just the financial statements. That's the husbands and wives, or spouses, I should say. They fill those out. But where's the truth lie? The truth lies in, give me your bank statements, give me your tax returns. And I always find it funny when I do my tax return, we file jointly. You don't have to, but we file jointly. And there's always that moment goes, well, you made that much? Where did it go? And I'm like, I don't know, because I am a spendthrift. I don't keep track very well of where I spend my money. And I don't know where it goes. Well, I do if I really want to figure it out. But we were sitting around, because I'm trying to get in a budget, trying to be better with my money, or our money. And I'm going through it, and I didn't realize I stopped at a supermarket probably 4 or 5 days out of every, I was going to say out of every 4 or 5 days, but not quite that bad. And I don't spend a huge amount of money, but I'm always stopping in, getting like, I always think I guess I need something. I end up getting a few more things extra than I maybe don't really need. And that's what a forensic accountant will do. They'll show like, well, where did all the money go? Let's hope it's somebody like me. I'm just not really, I'm not trying to hide it or try to, deny my spouse, the truth of where it is, but they often have to go back and do that and find out, because sometimes people have separate bank accounts and hide money, and that can be fairly easily traceable through records. And that's why I hire forensic accountants in really large marital estates. Sometimes couples come in with nothing, and it's really easy. Let's just get you divorced. You keep what little you have, and you keep what little you have, and we'll try to be amicable about the ending of the relationship. But it's a complex area. It takes practice to get a feel for how you equitably divide a marital estate. It's like anything else. It's almost like something like a partnership, a general partnership. People work together and they do a business, and then it's time to close it down. Well, in a partnership, it's a lot easier because it's equal distribution. Marriage is not necessarily equal. Equitable does not mean equal. Equitable has a lot to do with behavior and contribution and age and wealth, a number of different things. And one of the reasons why I like not being involved in doing divorce work is I like a little bit more certainty in how determinations are made. And I find it very tedious trying to find information about the other spouse's assets and people bickering and fighting, because it's often not about money. It's about bitterness, and that never gets easily dealt with by me. I just it's not a healthy area of law. Some people love this stuff, and my former law partner is thriving as a divorce attorney, and it doesn't bother him at all. He's helping people move on. I don't care for it, because it's often about money and kids, and both things can really make people, good people become bad people in the course of the process. Can't think of it any other way to say it. Hey, be well. Don't be afraid to reach out for any questions. I'm sorry I bifurcated a video that I was trying to put one video in for 2 chapters and it'd be 2 videos because I couldn't figure out how to add on to the other one. My apologies. Be well, everybody, and don't be afraid again to reach out with any questions or concerns.